we get down to semantics, it really comes down to, well, what do they call it, and what do I call it? Well, I call it school.
Welcome back, everyone, to an Almost Perfect podcast. I am John. I am here with our good friend Tom over there, and I'm sorry, Tom, if I'm like, I'm like just kind of messing
Well,
everything up.
the other thing is you're pointing this direction, and I'm over here on my.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I don't know where I am on our viewers.
What is it? Scarecrow? You can go this way, or he might be over there. But sometimes he's everywhere because he's Tom. Tom, how are you, brother?
I'm well. It was a very good weekend. Uh, as you know, I filled in as the one of the three people to preach while you're transitioning from where we are, which is Corpus Christi, to where you're going, which is Del Rio. So
Yeah. So I went to church without any kind of preparation or any kind of responsibility yesterday, and I like doing that from time to time. I tell everybody that Tom Tarver is my retirement hero. When I retire, I'm just like Tom. Just go do whatever I want. I'll help out when I can, but just live carefree and responsibility free. I love it, man. It was a great taste of that yesterday for me. I loved it. It was good. We went to the garden service at at First Church, and it was Pastor Marshall's last Sunday there, and at that service, I'm sure they did at the other ones too. They had like a, just a thank you and prayer and everything. As they're praying for him to finish the service, it starts raining on us. It was great. Lluvias de gracia. That's what we say here at Kelsey. So it's been raining a lot, man. Finally,
rain of grace, or
uh-huh.
what's gracia? Is it grace?
Grace. Yeah.
Gracia.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. So been raining a lot. Pretty. It rained for a good while last night. Actually, early this morning, our power went out. The
Very,
storm.
very early this morning.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's.
yesterday and today was a really interesting phenomenon. I don't know if it well, you're in the neighborhood, so you may have seen it. These little bugs were flying around, and the seagulls came inland and were just diving in, and you could watch them. They were feasting on those little bugs.
Is
Uh,
that what they were doing?
that's exactly what they were doing. And the thing is, the moment it stopped raining, those things disappeared. Because I was getting ready yesterday, and I thought, when I'm ready, I'm going to go out there and try to find out what those little flittering things are.
I'm
And
glad you told me because I was the whole morning, like, the whole day, I was like, what in the world? Because when we pulled out of our neighborhood, there were probably 1,000 seagulls. I'm exaggerating, but probably a good
not by
35,
much.
35, 50 of them just in one spot. I almost hit like three of them on my windshield. Like, what is going on? Is this Alfred Hitchcock? The seagulls, not the birds.
The birds. It was definitely the seagulls that were one of the main antagonists in that,
Yes, that's
among
right. That's
other
right.
birds, but they really took over that town. But anyway,
So,
it was a very cool thing, and I couldn't quite figure out what those were, and I still haven't, but I at least caught one because they're easy to catch. They just kind of flitter, um, and looked at it and go, I still don't know what it is, but I know it's not a moth, and I know it's not a butterfly. So.
okay, interesting. Very good. And of course, see what else is in the news. I don't have my laptop with me or out. I don't have any plans of taking it out until I move, so I don't have all the stories ahead. But World Cup news, Team USA won. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Are you World Cup watcher, Tom?
Yeah, I actually tuned in during halftime and go, okay, I'll now go on and watch something else. If it was actually, if they had been playing, I would have watched at least, and I don't even remember which teams it were. They were, but.
fairway. And so I remember we watched the game, and I had to admit online that I know nothing about soccer. So other than it's too much running for me. So but we enjoyed watching. We had a couple games on just kind of in the background. So Team
I
USA won.
this will surprise you. I played for Team USA in the '90s.
Okay, do tell.
Actually, we when we were in Russia, we were supposed to be taking a break from Russian life, and instead of taking a break from Russian life, we got deeper into it because we went overnight into the middle of nowhere to a city of about 30,000, and they had these signs all over the place. Sasha versus Zaya, and Sasha is USA. In Russian, and they were talking about us. We're kind of like looking at each other. Is who who here knows who here has played soccer? Now we had most of us had played just kind of you know PE soccer. Nobody played on an actual team, but we went out and we only got beat 5-2, but they gave us two of their very best players. One was a guy who could score goals, and the other was the goalie who could prevent them. Otherwise, we'd have probably got lost like 20-0. Although I think one of us scored at least one of the goals, but can't remember.
Well, well, here's the hope, and Team USA goes far and does well. Let's see.
They started out.
Hurricanes. They started out well. Good game, good match. Game, match. I don't know. See, I don't know. I don't know soccer, Tom. I don't know hockey either, but hockey has a new champion. Hurricanes won.
Hurricanes.
Yeah.
I thought you were
And
going
that,
to talk about a hurricane, but no, you're talking about hockey. Good. I'm glad. We
yeah,
get a little nervous with the word hurricane in the first place. So,
yeah. Well, not me. I live in Del Rio now, Tom.
yeah. So you go through Carrizo Springs, and we were always happy for hurricanes off the coast because
I
that meant
bet.
we would actually get rain. So,
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. And I think that's all the sports talk I want to do. I have nothing else sports related that I want to even mention. I don't have any other sports memories in my mind at the moment.
I will tell you, a lot of people have been rooting for the Spurs, and they were disappointed. I know, although you're saying that you haven't any other. Fortunately for me, I've been watching the Hooks. They were playing in Midland, and and our team, who's been very anemic at the plate. I mean, we've lost 8 or 9, I think 8. We've been shut out 8 times.
Oh well.
Games like 1-0, 3-0, or close game 3-2. All we needed was a hit, and we would have won the game, and we couldn't get it. And this week, we even when we lost, uh, it was close. And we were down by 7 runs in the first game, and we scored 8 unanswered runs and won by 1. The last ones, I know, yesterday was 15-7. We won, and there was one guy. I can't think of his first name, but Butcher, like Butcher, but add an R behind the B, Butcher, and and I mean what was it? He was 18 of 21, 17 of, yeah, I think it was 17 of 21. I mean, it's just incredible. So when everybody's sad about the Spurs on Sunday morning, I'm going, oh, I'm glad I didn't watch it. I was very happy with what I saw.
Yeah, at least I got to watch Spurs basketball in June. That's we'll leave it there and we'll move on. All right,
Yeah,
Tom.
and you'll be not far from. I mean, you're not any further from San Antonio than you were here. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I'm imagining, yeah, I'm imagining seeing some games or something soon. All right, Tom. So I wanted us to talk with today about something I think probably every pastor, preacher, has probably said or thought at least once, even if not, if like just because it came to their mind, but just because it's so much a part of, I think, kind of preacher pastor culture, right? You're at church and something's going on and you're called and what do we do, pastor? And you're like, oh, I don't know, let's try this. And you do whatever you got to do, and hopefully it works out well. You're like, okay, great. And then you say those famous words. Well, they didn't teach me that in seminary, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many moments like that did you ever have, Tom?
Oh, my guess is at least on a weekly basis, and when you add all of those up, I'm sure that's an underestimation of those moments where you go, I really wish they had addressed this. Now, the interesting thing, just this last week, I was in a 3-day seminar about transitional intentional interim ministry, which is actually what's going to be happening at Kelsey Memorial United Methodist Church when you leave. Pastor Juan Osorio and his wife are coming in, and he has been appointed for 1 year as an interim pastor. And I think it's a great idea. I was just talking to someone else this morning. I attended, or I was senior pastor at Asbury United Methodist Church, which is no longer Asbury United Methodist Church. They joined the Global Methodist Church, um, and we were talking. I was talking about what I learned this past week, and I go, I wish I'd have known this because it was very practical, and it is helpful. It's almost like I think they should initially give us 1 year of training, send us out for about 3 or 4 years with intentional educational ministry, and then start the reset on the seminary education, because once you're in church and once you're doing ministry, the questions you really need to know. Otherwise, it feels like math class until you actually need math.
That's good. Yeah. I think for me, if I think about those things, and so I told Tom, I think there's a difference, and he agrees. You could frame it as things they didn't teach me in seminary versus things I didn't learn in seminary. Because sometimes I didn't pay attention as much as I probably should have. But I still think a lot of those things that we say, oh, I didn't learn that seminary, that, really the seminary isn't the place to learn them, maybe. So for me, church finances, right? I'm not a finance guy. Numbers, me and numbers, we don't do well. Technology in the church, or those practical things that you think about. Um, I had a mentor that told me the way he prepared me for seminary. He said, it's the church that creates and forms the pastor, and it's the seminary that forms and creates the theologian. And there are things that the church can and will teach you that the seminary kind of really can't, right? And in the same vein, there's things that the seminary will teach you, will focus on, will give attention to that often doesn't happen in the church. Certainly not in the same kinds of way. And so I think for me, like learning the expectations of what a seminary education should be or could be, versus, when you used the word practical a while ago, when you start working with the people in real life ministry, and realizing that those are different kinds of tools, quite often. There is no, for me, there wasn't, uh, church finances 101 at seminary, because that wasn't their goal, to teach those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Conflict resolution, planning, church repairs, all that kind of stuff that comes up for everybody. Yeah, that's not for me. It wasn't something I expected to learn at SMU, of all places, right?
But I am I. Oh, there I am.
There you are.
I was frozen there for a moment.
Well,
Um,
sorry, seminary didn't teach me how to unfreeze you, Tom. I'm sorry.
so this is one of those. Just wait. Either you'll be unfrozen, or you won't. And if you're not, well, we'll talk about this later. Anyway, I, I I think about some of the things that we as pastors uh, stress over. Nickels and noses, and to some extent, we, as I say, there's got to be a better way to do ministry rather than worrying about the church budget or the maintenance of the church. But the other side of that is you do have to pay attention to those things, and I don't know how seminary or the conference or a seminar helps prepare you for that, uh, more than just being with your colleagues and saying, what have you found is the good balance in that. And right now I'm reading a book called the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and it talks about one thing you would not see in the gospel is an anxious, hurried Jesus of
Hmm.
Nazareth. You know, even when things are urgent from our perspective, a daughter is dying, please, the Lord, come. And on the way, he stops, has a conversation, heals a woman, doesn't seem to be in any hurry. And can't
Right.
imagine the stress level of the father who's waiting for the savior of the world to get moving again.
Is he mad, do you think, Tom? Or is he like, what do you think? Like, how's that dad feeling when Jesus stops?
Oh well, I, I'm trying to think. Again, what do we feel when we're in a hurry and all of a sudden, we want all the lights to be green,
That's a good
and
one.
and and they all happen to be red, and the feeling is God, don't you know where I am? Don't you know? And literally, God is standing there talking to a woman who needs help,
Hmm.
and I don't think he might have felt a little bit um, angry toward the woman, that she would not realize how serious his situation was. I don't think he would have been mad at Jesus, but he might have felt something, an undercurrent of, well, let's just say disapproval.
Yeah.
I don't,
I was here first.
yeah, yeah. Which is surprisingly is more of the culture uh, we've grown up in, because you live in Russia where there's a shortage, and there's no such thing as one straight line to get your milk or sour cream or meat of the day. It's just everybody crowds in and tries to get the attention of whoever's taking care of
Hmm.
the counter. So
So that's actually a good story to that biblical story tie in how this relates to a larger I don't know if topic's the right word, but certainly a focus that John Wesley had on practical divinity. Practical divinity is one of those phrases that caught my attention the most as I started getting more involved and having a better understanding of what it means to be, a Wesleyan or a Methodist Christian. This idea that there's theology, but then there's practice theology, right? And that's the kind of the connection between I didn't learn that in seminary versus what I got to get done at church today, because there's the sort of the understanding of what theology is, who God is, what ministry is, but then there's the actual. making it happen and living it out. And I don't think I would say I'm no Wesley expert, but Wesley didn't, he's not saying, theology itself is unimportant by any means. I mean, he wants to train his preachers, right? But he's also seems to put the greater attention on the practical divinity, the practical theology that, I mean, if you have the head knowledge, but you don't live it out in mercy, well, then what what are you doing with that head knowledge about theology? And so, Tom, how do you approach this idea of practical divinity from a pastoral perspective? And then hopefully we use that to kind of see how this is important also for the people in our churches, this idea of practical divinity, practical theology.
Well, yeah, and I think of something that most of us who've grown up in church, if asked, what are the two great laws that Jesus said, and we immediately answer to love the Lord your God, and then to love your neighbor as yourself. So to love God, love people, easy enough to say. Uh,
Mhm.
but then, what is the practice of loving God? What is the practice of loving others? It's one thing to have the right words in your mind. It's another thing to take those words and then do the very things that those words, what they look like when they are put on human skin. They are practiced in the life of a man, woman, or child. And I was just trying to think of, um, oh, I know what it was. And so Jesus, when he makes this very practical statement, a very difficult statement, when the disciples ask him, they've been arguing about, I'm the most important. No, I am. Oh, you couldn't. Why are you important? And I mean, they're having this discussion on the road. Jesus is leading them, and then they get in the house, and he goes, what were you guys talking about? And suddenly it gets quiet. And after a moment of silence, finally, it doesn't say any particular disciple. It just says they asked him, "Well,
Mhm.
who is the greatest of all?" And he said, "The one who is servant to all. He is the greatest of all in the kingdom of heaven." And you go, if you think about that, you go, I understand what it is to be great from a heavenly perspective, or from God's perspective. It's not the things we begin to build on. That's a great title. He's president of, or she's a chairperson of, or you
Mhm.
know, uh, oh, look at what she has. Oh, look at his bank account. Oh, I mean, you can go through the and he just says the person who is most like the janitor, or the person who is most like the woman who cleans up the mess after somebody has gotten sick. The person, and he modeled this, the person who washes uh, the feet of those around him after a long day of hiking. He gives us a very concrete image of what it is to be great from the through the eyes of God, and he also gives us a very clear image of what it is to truly love others, because uh, loving others means I'm going to get in line, and I'll keep moving back as long as there are people coming. First of all, be the last of all.
And that's that idea about we frame it, we say it all the time, this idea of information versus transformation. We can like focus a lot on the information, right? And we want to know and we want to learn the theological words, or we want to have the concepts down. We want to have all the information, but the transformation of heart, mind, and soul. Well, without that, I mean, what point is having the information? And so, if I hear what you're saying, this idea that knowing truth, but then understanding how we live in the truth within our lives, like how our lives are 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 shaped by what we come to know about God. It's not just like you said, it's not just the head knowledge. It's also um, how our heart responds as well. Like if we say Scripture even says it, right? If you say you love God but you don't love your neighbor, well, you're lying, right? Because
Yeah,
how do you?
the one who does that is a liar.
Right. And my dad always says, if the Bible says you're a liar, well, then you're a liar, right? And so that's that connection between um, the truth that you learn or that you understand versus how willing you are to live it out. And so knowing doctrine versus uh, living living out a sense of holiness before God and before each other, and that seems to matter a lot to Wesley, of course, and I, Jesus is a fan of it too, right? Because right, he'll say, don't you know what this? He's talking to some of the teachers and the Pharisees. Don't you know what this means? Of course, they know it, but they hadn't translated it for a way that they're now able to live mercifully with other people. And so that's a struggle we all still have too as people. And so that's why I think this is an important thing for us to make sure we consider as well. It's not just having Sunday school answers ready at the goal. Did you ever do Bible drills, Tom? Right?
No, that I do remember being. I was in college, and we had a, a guest uh, a guest speaker who spoke in chapel, but I also talked to the leadership. I happened to be one of those in leadership at Oral Roberts University, meaning I had a responsibility over a particular dorm as a resident advisor, and so we would regularly meet. And I still remember one of those meetings. I don't remember who it was, but he and I do remember the question. He said, "For $100, tell me the the uh, spiritual armor." But in Ephesians
Hmm.
5 or 6, it has the armor, the spiritual armor uh, of a of a Christian, and and we're all ready to say whatever the answer is, and then he says in order, and it's like, well, I kind of think I know what they are, but I don't know what they are in order. And I couldn't tell you today what the answer is, but I do know after he asked that question, 24 hours later,
You
there
had
was
it.
however many young men and women were in that setting. We knew the answer to that question.
I did a Ephesians 6 shuffle once. That did them in order. You had the dance, and I was gonna trademark it for a while, but it didn't quite work out. So the Ephesians 6 shuffle, that'd be our way to memorize it. But to the point of the conversation, all right, let's say you memorize it in exact order and everything, but then it's not anything that that influences your life. Well, then so what, right? That's the point of practical divinity and practical theology. That the practical part is how you live this out uh, in your own life, but also how you live this out with your neighbor, right? And
Yeah,
so, if I remember correctly, Tom, John Wesley kind of brings this all together, and he talks about at least two ways that we live this out, right? Two ways that we understand how we how we live this. It's through our works of piety, right? Where we are praying and we're reading scripture, and these are the ways that we come to know and experience truth ourselves, right?
Yeah,
In
we're
our
more,
own
more open.
minds.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there are the works of mercy, which is those ways that we then, express that faith to others by like you said, serving others, being a presence for others, and so those two things taken together. I use the example all the time, like which is more important, breathing out or breathing in? Well, they're both important. So which one is more important? The righteousness that you take in yourself or the acts of mercy. It's like, well, they go hand in hand, right?
One
Um,
should lead to the other, and well, specifically our relationship with Christ, our relationship with God the Father, uh, that should prompt a change in direction as far as looking at others and how we respond to others.
yeah. And then I think I would say finally with how Wesley really accents this, probably in a way, I don't want to say that nobody else really did, maybe not so much an emphasis like the way he did, was how this comes together in sort of a communal accountability. So, the groups that you're a part of, right? Bands or, what are the smaller groups called?
Yeah, and bands
Class,
for
class
those
meetings.
yeah, for those listening, bands, we're not talking about instrument bands. We're talking about a
Yes.
group of people who are tied to one another.
So there were the societies, which we would probably call the church, I guess, in larger congregations. People would come in, and then societies were brought down into classes, small groups, right? And if you were like extra serious, you got involved in these bands. And again, yeah, not no drummers needed for this. This was smaller groups of people, and you had some very high accountability questions that you asked of each other, that you expressed. But in that, whether it's the bands or the the class meetings, this idea that, all right, how are we living that out together? How are you letting that truth form your life, right? And that was, I just feel like that was one of that's one of the key elements of the Wesleyan movement. I feel like the modern church, at least modern Wesleyan church, we've forgotten a lot and we've kind of let go of. And maybe this practical divinity part is something we need to reestablish ourselves again. So in the next few minutes, we kind of wrap that up, Tom. How would you sort of put a bow on this and give it to somebody who's listening? Like what this idea of practical divinity, practical theology, as it were. How do you sum that up and give it to someone and tell them to make something of it?
Well, one of the simple things I think is, and I've seen this. I ask this question when I see someone who really isn't doing the typical modern Western thing, whatever the typical modern Western thing is. That they respond differently than most of us respond. When I would get angry, this person seems to be calm, and not only calm, but a calming agent um, uh, that this person is attentive to what's happening in front of her or in front of him, and engaged in that place instead of being there for a moment and then going on to the next thing. I mean, they're just, and I don't. It's kind of like uh, kind of like that simple. How do you define whatever? And I would say I don't know how to define it, but I sure recognize it when I see it, and that's a life that is different, and different specifically aligning more with the character of Christ and the nature of God when everybody else is not. So, and when we talk about practical divinity, That's to me where it shows up is in a life that is obviously different from the norm.
Yeah, I affirm that, and I guess I would encourage people. There's a great benefit of having a seminary education. I'm grateful for mine.
Me
Um,
too.
but you also you don't need to go to seminary to live out practical divinity, practical theology. What you are learning in your experiences of worship and prayer and all those kinds of things, um, as you live that out, as you go to the hospital to go visit somebody and be that presence with them, you are living out practical divinity, right? The theological concept is, communion of saints and the mission of a church, whatever, but you live that out when you actually go and do it. And so that's what this all comes down to. And it doesn't mean that if I tell you that, oh, you don't have to go to seminary, it doesn't mean seminary is pointless and it's, only for a special few. It's no. Some people have the opportunity, and some people need to go, and they do well. Um, when I first went, one of the encouragements I got was, "Don't let seminary ruin you." And that was an unfortunate idea. But what seminary did for me, like I said, I'm grateful for. It gave me a better sense of how I can approach what I'm supposed to do. But you don't have to have that. You have these other things, and you learn from people who maybe have that knowledge and experience, and you live it out. And that's what's most important. Just live it out. You don't even need
Yeah,
a podcast either, Tom.
yeah. Hopefully, our podcast helps somebody to. I mean, that honestly, that is our hope and prayer is that what we say has a positive influence on relationship with Christ and with others. The one thing, if there's one thing that I think you do need, I think you need to see Jesus more clearly, and for me, the practical place to see Jesus more clearly is in the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Um, uh, and when you're looking at Jesus, start asking the question, because there's an invitation. It's a two-word invitation,
Hmm.
and it's very clear. If you were with me in a room and I said this, you know exactly what to do, and those two words are follow me. You ask a question, where's such and where's the restroom in this church? Follow me. And but
Yep.
Jesus gives that invitation, and it's not to follow him to a place, but follow him in a relationship, and see where he goes. And I'm not talking about in an abstract way. See where he goes in the Gospels. Does he go to the poor? Does he go to church? Does he pray? How does he pray? How does he treat the person who is in front of him? And I mean, just the practical side of what those words actually mean. Uh, if he teaches on forgiveness, listen to what he says, and he's pretty clear about the instructions. So it's not it is not a just an opportunity to be informed about Jesus Christ. An opportunity to apply that information and live like Jesus Christ.
There you go. That's it. That's it. And don't worry. Like using your example before about playing, for Team USA. You know how to kick a ball. You know how to run around. You know the point of the game, and you're certainly not as good as other people. You get help from the other team, and right. And sometimes I think that's in church. That's a line that some of us create. Oh, well, Pastor so and so went to seminary, and so that means they're better at this than me. And no, 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 no. that's not that kind of thing, right? It's how we live this out together and how we grow from each other as well. And I think we all have something to teach each other how to do that. So keep at it, Tom, and everybody else who's listening, keep at it. And if you know what those little bugs are that are flying around Corpus Christi, let us know because it's intriguing. And I really don't want to hit a seagull with my car, but I almost did, and so I want to try to avoid that. So, Tom, good stuff, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate your insight always, and you do a good job. You got this practical divinity stuff down, man. Did you get all A's in seminary?
No.
No. Okay.
I wouldn't say I got. I was a terrible student either. I held my own.
Well, what
I
do they
did.
say?
I did get a 0 on a test,
So
and
did I.
and then I learned grace because the professor said this has never happened before, and yet two of you need to see me after the class. So
Nice.
two of us made zeros on that test.
I was relieved my first semester when they taught us, I think probably the most important lesson for seminary, at least my seminary experience. C stands for clergy. So you get a C, you're good, man. You're good. You're good. All right, Tom, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you all for listening, for watching. Let us know how you're living out your practical divinity and making the world a better place and being faithful to it. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time. God be with you. Now I can push stop record, Tom. Here we go.
Yep.
I'm scared to mess it, but
There it goes. That's all.
stop. There we go.